Hey guys, welcome back to r/MaliciousCompliance. In this Ripe Stories video, my toxic boss fired me because I would not sign off on procedures I had not seen. She said I was slowing down sales and was not being a team player. Then she banned me from the building, but here's the problem. I was the only doctor and without me, the clinic could not legally operate. Let's dive right into the story. And the title story starts like this. So this happened at a private aesthetic clinic where I work part-time as a doctor. I'm semi-retired doing a portfolio career kind of thing, and this gig was perfect for me. Small clinic in the central district of Hong Kong inside one of those commercial towers. The standard Hong Kong setup, reception area that looked more like a luxury boutique than a clinic, treatment rooms tucked behind frosted glass doors. We did non-surgical aesthetic work, injectables, prescription creams, minor procedures, skin programs, that sort of thing. Mixed of walk-ins and WhatsApp bookings, pretty standard for Hong Kong. And my role was straightforward. I provided medical oversight, wrote prescriptions, did clinical sign-offs, and basically made sure everything that needed a doctor actually had a doctor looking at it. In Hong Kong, certain aesthetic procedures and all prescription medications require a registered medical practitioner. The clinic couldn't legally offer injectables, prescription skincare, or anything beyond basic beauty treatments without a doctor registered to that location, and that person was me. I was not just helpful, I was a regulatory requirement. The clinic marketed itself as doctor-led, which meant my credentials were part of the whole package. Good for them, fine for me. The work was calm, the hours were reasonable, and I got to maintain professional standards without the chaos of a hospital setting. The owner was mostly hands-off, focused on expansion and branding, and the staff were solid, nurses, therapists, consultants who knew their stuff. Everyone felt some pressure to hit targets, but it was manageable. I liked it there. But then Karen showed up. Karen came from luxury beauty retail and med spa sales. The owner hired her to scale revenue, push packages, increase conversion rates, and reduce time per patient. All the buzzwords you can imagine. She was not a clinician, had zero medical background, but she had an impressive track record of making retail operations more profitable. First week she observed, second week she started optimizing. She introduced 10-minute consultation slots for aesthetic medicine, 10 minutes, and then she started double booking me because of her efficiency, and she told staff to pre-fill patient notes and just get the doctor's signature later. She pushed borderline practices left and right, promising guaranteed results to clients, suggesting we had doctor oversight even when I hadn't seen the patient yet, and she was pressuring staff to upsell add-ons without proper documented consent. And yeah, I pushed back. Calmly, professionally, I'll see fewer patients, but I will document properly. She rolled her eyes at me and said, "Doctor, this is a business, not a hospital. We need to move faster. No prescriptions without an actual consultation and proper notes. The consultants can do the consultation, you just need to review and sign." No, I'm not signing anything after the fact. Karen didn't appreciate this at all. It blocked her sales targets, and she took it personally. The confrontation built slowly. She started with public criticism during staff meetings. "You're slowing everyone down, other doctors manage their time better." Then came the threats. "We can find another doctor, you know, someone more aligned with our growth strategy." Then the power play. "You work here, you follow my workflow. This is not your private practice." I kept it professional though. Every single time I said the same thing. "If you want me to do it, put it in writing." So she did. Karen sent me an email outlining a new workflow that included using a standardized checkbox note for everyone, signing off on procedures I had not personally reviewed, and authorizing prescriptions based on a consultant's summary. Basically, she wanted me to rubber stamp everything so she could move faster. I replied politely, but also in writing. I cannot comply with anything that requires my medical sign-off without proper assessment and documentation. I will continue to follow clinical standards. Well, that email of course pissed her off more than anything I'd said in person. Things escalated fast after that. We had this VIP client, someone who spent serious money at the clinic, and she came in for a treatment that needed doctor oversight, not surgery, but definitely something that required my assessment and sign-off before proceeding. The client didn't want to wait though, and Karen wanted to keep her happy, so Karen found me in the staff area. "The VIP is here for her treatment, start prepping her." "I need to do the consultation first." "We already did the consultation, she was here last week." "I was not here last week. I need to see her, review her current condition, document it properly and so on." Karen's face did this thing where you could see her mentally calculating how much revenue was slipping away. "She's already annoyed about waiting. This is exactly the inefficiency problem I'm talking about." Just sign off on it, we will do the notes after. No. Excuse me? No, I won't sign off on a procedure I have not assessed. If something goes wrong, my license is on the line, not yours. I'm your manager. I'm telling you to do your job. My job is to provide competent medical oversight. That's what I'm doing. She leaned in closer, lowered her voice. You're creating problems where there aren't any. This client spends more in a month than you make here. Think about that. Well, yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about what happens when someone has a complication and there's no proper documentation. I'm thinking about regulatory issues and I'm thinking about my medical license. Your medical license is not more important than this business. Well, to me it is. She was furious, absolutely furious. But there were other staff around, so she just said, "We will discuss this later," and walked away. I did the consultation properly. The VIP client was fine with it once I explained why we needed to go through these extra steps, and the treatment went smoothly. Everything was documented correctly. I thought that maybe that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. 2 days later, I showed up for my shift. I took the elevator up and went to scan my access card at the clinic's door. The reader beeped red. Access denied. I tried again, same thing. One of the nurses saw me through the glass and looked uncomfortable, but didn't open the door for me. I called the clinic number and got Karen. "You're banned from the premises," she said, super casual, like she was telling me that lunch was ready. "Your access card has been deactivated, your next shifts are cancelled, and consider yourself terminated." I was standing there in the hallway of a commercial tower in central Hong Kong with my phone pressed to my ear trying to process this. "You're firing me? You refuse to follow protocol. You're not a good fit for where this clinic is going. We need team players who understand business priorities." "Karen, I'm the doctor. The clinic is marketed as doctor-led. You understand what that means, right?" "Well, we'll find another doctor. You're not that special. This conversation is over." She hung up. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds just thinking, she wanted me banned and gone? Fine, I would comply completely. I'd been so thoroughly gone that the clinic would feel exactly what banned and terminated actually meant. I went down to the coffee shop across the street, opened my laptop and started writing some emails. The first one went to Karen, copied to the general clinic email. "Understood, since I'm banned from the clinic and no longer practicing there, effective immediately, please confirm that you will stop representing that I provide medical oversight at your premises. Please remove my name, photo and credentials from all marketing materials, website, booking platforms and patient-facing documents. Also, please stop booking patients under my name. Please confirm in writing that you will not use my credentials in any capacity." Second email went to the clinic's insurance providers and the corporate health schemes we were registered with. I stated the facts clearly. I was no longer practicing at this location as of today's date, and my registration at this address should be updated to reflect my departure, and I would no longer be responsible for medical oversight at these premises. In Hong Kong's aesthetic medicine field, insurance coverage and corporate health scheme partnerships depend on having a registered practitioner at the location. So no doctor, no coverage. This was not revenge reporting or something. This is just standard professional practice. If your name is attached to a medical facility and you're not working there, you correct the record. It is actually what you're supposed to do. The third email went directly to the owner. "I've been banned from the premises by your manager and terminated effective immediately. I'm no longer the doctor for your clinic as of today. Please ensure my name is removed from all materials and that no services are represented as doctor-led under my oversight. Please also note that I have updated relevant insurance providers and health scheme partners regarding my departure. No threats, no drama. Just some facts and a paper trail. Then I went home and waited. The fallout started within a couple days. The clinic had bookings scheduled under Dr. OP, aka me. Those patients started getting calls that their appointments were being rescheduled. Some cancelled outright, but the real problem was deeper than just the cancellations. One of the nurses texted me on day 2 saying, "Karen is telling us to proceed with injectables. She says we don't need a doctor on site because we are all trained. Nobody wants to do it." This is illegal. Another message from a different staff member said, "Insurance company called asking why claims are still coming through with your name when you're not registered here anymore. Karen told them it was an administrative error and they suspended processing." Then I heard through a friend in the industry that Karen had called 3 different doctors trying to get someone to cover shifts immediately. All 3 declined once they heard the circumstances. Word travels fast in Hong Kong's aesthetic medicine community. By the end of the week, I got a call from the owner. He said, "We need to talk." "About what?" Come by my office or I'll come to you, whatever you prefer. We met at a restaurant and he looked stressed. What happened? I showed him the email chain, all of it, Karen's workflow requirements, my refusal, her escalating demands, and of course the VIP situation, the termination and my response, and he read everything twice. She fired you because you wouldn't sign off on a procedure without seeing the patient? Correct. And then you notified the insurance and health scheme partners. Standard procedure when you are no longer practicing at a location. My name cannot be on file if I'm not there. He rubbed his face. The clinic is bleeding money. We had to cancel 2 full days of appointments. Patients are demanding refunds. Staff are refusing to work because they don't want liability exposure. Karen says she has another doctor lined up, but credentialing takes weeks, maybe even months. Probably months if you want someone reputable who understands the regulatory framework. This is a disaster. I didn't say anything, just drank my tea. What would it take for you to come back? Are you asking me to return to work under Karen's management? No, God no. He looked exhausted. I need to know exactly what happened from your perspective first, but if what these emails show is accurate, then Karen is done. What do you mean done? I mean fired. I've been reviewing her other communications with staff, and she's been pushing people to violate their scope of practice, and she made advertising claims that we cannot even defend. She put liability creating instructions in writing. This is not just about you, it's about the entire compliance framework of the clinic. He pulled out his phone and showed me a message from one of the corporate health schemes. Please confirm registered medical practitioner at your location before we can continue partnership. We lost 3 corporate clients already, he said. They cannot send their employees to a clinic without a registered doctor. Karen kept saying, we could operate without you. She genuinely thought the doctor thing was just marketing. It is not marketing, it's a regulatory requirement. I know that now. We talked for about another hour and he asked what I needed to come back. Karen gets removed completely, not reassigned, not moved to another role, just gone. I want written confirmation of her termination before I return. Done. Documentation standards get enforced properly, no shortcuts, no pressure on staff to work outside their scope. Agreed. And I wanted in writing a clear agreement that defines my clinical authority and boundaries, what I'm responsible for, what I'm not responsible for, and confirmation that nobody can overrule medical decisions for sale reasons. I will have my lawyer draft it. I also want assurance that staff won't face retaliation for supporting proper protocols during the situation. Nobody's getting punished for doing the things correctly. If anything, I owe them apologies. So yeah, we hammered out the details. He drafted an agreement, ran it by his lawyer, and then sent it to me. I reviewed it with my lawyer, we both signed, and he scheduled a staff meeting for the following Monday. I went to that meeting, the owner was there, Karen was there too, looking confused about why I was present. The owner stood up. I'm gonna be brief. After reviewing the events of the past 2 weeks, I've decided to terminate Karen's employment, effective immediately. Karen's face went white. What? You fired our registered medical practitioner without understanding that the clinic cannot legally operate without one. You put staff in positions where they could lose their licenses. You even created compliance risks that have cost us contracts and clients. Your employment is terminated. Security will escort you out after this meeting. You cannot do this. I was trying to make this place profitable. You were trying to cut corners that put the entire operation at risk. We are a medical clinic, not a retail store. Different rules apply here. Karen looked around the room like someone would back her up, but nobody did. She turned to me. This is your fault. You couldn't just be flexible. You had to make everything difficult. I kept my voice level. You banned me from the premises and terminated me. I complied with your instruction. I also informed the relevant parties that I was no longer practicing here. That is just standard professional procedure. You destroyed everything I built. Well, you built it on quicksand. It was always going to collapse. The owner nodded to security, and then they escorted Karen out. She was still arguing as she left, and after she was gone, the owner addressed the staff. I apologize for putting everyone in this position. Clinical standards are non-negotiable, and I should have made that clear from the beginning. Dr. OP is returning and we'll be hiring an additional part-time doctor to ensure proper coverage. If anyone felt pressure to compromise their professional standards during the past few weeks, please come talk to me privately. 3 people approached him after the meeting. I went back to work the following week. The clinic stabilized gradually. We updated all the marketing materials to be accurate, and we rebuilt relationships with the insurance providers and corporate health schemes. Patients came back once they understood that we had proper medical oversight again. One of the nurses brought me coffee on my first day back. Thank you for not caving. Some of us were getting really worried about what Karen was pushing us to do. You could have said no. Easy for you to say, you have a medical license and options, some of us just have this job. That hit me. She was right about this. I could walk away because I had the credentials and experience, but a lot of the staff couldn't. The funny thing is, the clinic's revenue eventually went up after this. Turns out when patients trust that you're doing things properly, when they feel safe, when they know the doctor actually sees them and documents everything correctly, they come back and they refer friends and they spend more money because they trust you. Karen's whole approach was short-term thinking, push volume, cut corners, maximize immediate revenue. But in medical aesthetics, your reputation is just everything. One bad outcome, one patient who feels rushed or misled, and one procedure that goes wrong because documentation was sloppy, that can destroy years of business building. The owner told me later that when Karen was fired, she tried to argue that she could still fix everything, that she just needed a few more weeks to find a replacement doctor, and he told her the problem was not finding a doctor, the problem was that she had fundamentally misunderstood what kind of business they were running. She kept saying, it's just a medical spa, not a hospital. He told me, she never understood that medical is medical, the standards don't change just because we are doing aesthetics instead of surgery. Karen thought that medical oversight was unnecessary overhead that slowed down sales, and she learned the hard way that medical oversight is the foundation of everything else is built on. And the next one is a beautiful malicious compliance story that you don't want to miss. It is titled, Take Notes of Everything You Say in the Meeting. Okay, but it will get you fired. And by the way, if you enjoy the malicious compliance, please don't forget to like the video and post a comment if you want to support me. So this happened a few years ago, and I'll be vague since I'm still not sure if the dust has finally fully settled from this fiasco yet. At my former company, I was the secretary for a small improvement team that would meet monthly to discuss issues within the company and brainstorm ways to fix them. Something you need to know about me is that I was given this role because people know I'm meticulous at keeping records due to HR-related issues I had at a previous place of employment. I don't think my boss realized that this careful record-keeping applied to her as well, especially when she appointed me to be secretary of this little committee, but I digress. I was a model employee, read award-winning, and went above and beyond what was asked of me, as were many others in my department, but we were still having customer complaints and dealt with regular safety issues due to the company at large through no fault of our own. When we brought these concerns to our boss's attention, emails were left unread, and during in-person exchanges we were called whiny, needy, and were told that we needed to just deal with it. Whatever the issue, from items being stolen by customers to people being unhappy with the procedures the boss had set down for us to follow, it was always made to somehow be our fault. When we sought support from other departments, we were met with cold indifference since the boss was great to them and we must just be exaggerating the things she said to us. Well, during an improvement meeting at the end of the fiscal year, it all came to a head. Myself and a couple of my team members dug our heels in and were insistent about the unresolved issues the boss refused to acknowledge, and she finally went off on us. She told us everyone was incompetent, didn't deserve our jobs, and that maybe customers would like us more if we were more likable. When people pressed her on safety issues, she continued to reiterate that we would just have to deal with it, and that if someone was gonna die, they already would have, right? I, as the secretary, did my duty and took notes of all that happened over the course of that meeting. I usually did bullet points, but that night I was feeling a little more thorough, so I actually wrote down words. Every word that was said, every hateful comment, denial of accountability, and idle threat was recorded in black and white. Now, a second part of my job was to distribute the notes from the improvement meeting to the rest of the company. So then, come the next morning, I ran about 100 copies of the transcript of the meeting and hand-delivered them to every single department in the building, and things blew up. People from other departments who had attended the meeting were able to verify that everything I had typed up had really been said, and folks were mad, threatening to quit, refusing to do their normal duties, browsing Indeed during work, etc. My boss's boss, who worked at HQ, so I didn't get the opportunity to hand her a copy, got wind of these meeting minutes only a few hours after I handed them out and had an hour-long off-the-record conversation with me about all the safety issues I had documented, all the concerns I had submitted to management in writing, and all the records I had regarding my boss's inaction. She was very grateful for the 100 pages of documentation I sent over and thanked me for my time. The day after I unleashed Pandora's box, I put in my 2 weeks notice, took a new job and pieced out to greener pastures. At first, it seemed like things were calming down after I left, but the following year the company did not renew my boss's contract. I still feel a bit sad because I wasn't trying to get her fired or ruin her life actually, I was just desperate for some accountability thrown her way to create some positive change in the company, but at the end of the day, I just did what she had asked me to do. And the next one is a brilliant petty revenge story that is titled "Have Fun Without Your Video Game." So last night my wife and I went to Target for a few grocery items. As I was driving down the first aisle of the parking lot, I saw people getting into a car, so I flicked my turn signal on to park in their spot once they had vacated it. As I was waiting, a Chrysler 300 came up behind me, waited for 10 seconds or so, and then honked at me and sped around me. The parked car started to leave but turned towards me, so I had to wait for it to get out of my way before I could take its spot. As that was happening, the 300 quickly reversed back down the aisle, and as I was turning into the spot, he gave it some more gas and it backed into it before I could. The driver just glared at me and the chick in the passenger seat was looking at us and laughed. I was annoyed but just went to the next aisle in the lot, but then as my wife and I were walking into the store, I saw the driver and his girl getting out of the 300 plus another guy and girl getting out of the back. We all ended up walking into Target at the same time. I didn't say anything to them, I mean it wasn't worth it, but I was able to cut him off before he could get a card and I took my sweet time unhooking mine before he could get his. That is petty revenge, but it's not the petty revenge I'm here to write about. Read on. So after getting our card, my wife and I headed past the registers and pharmacy section towards grocery to pick up what we needed, and it registered in my mind that they had headed down the other direction, down the racetrack past a woman's clothing and towards the back of the store. At this point, I thought that would be the end of our interactions, but 10 to 15 minutes later, whatever it was, my wife and I rounded a corner to go down the chip aisle and we came across the same group of 4 people. We picked up what we needed and continued down the aisle to go to the next one where we happened upon their cart, which they had left unattended by the end cap while they all went down the chip aisle. I noticed that in their basket amongst their items was a video game in one of the plastic security cases and a few Valentine chocolates and candies. I made the snap decision to grab their game and one of the bags of chocolate and just rustled their basket up a little so that if they looked they would just think they were covered by their other items. If they did notice, they'd be a little confused and would have to go and get another copy of the game and another bag of chocolate, which would be frustrating for them. And if they didn't notice, well, that would be even better. So my wife and I continued to do our shopping for another 5 minutes or so. We passed them all 2 more times, and when we arrived at the registers we saw they were first in line for self-checkout. None of them had separated from each other to run back to electronics for another game, so either they had not noticed yet or they had and decided not to bother. I watched them to see if they noticed while they were ringing their items up, but they didn't. One of them tapped their phone to pay, they bagged their items and walked out. By the time we had paid and bagged and exited, their car was gone. I hope they got home and realized after they had unpacked everything, ordered pizza or whatever, opened some beers and sat down to play their game, that none of them actually had it and their night was ruined. That'll teach you for taking my parking spot. And the next one is a petty revenge story which is titled "Made sure the lazy maintenance guy did not get sleep." So I used to live in an apartment complex that was fairly cheap, but I was young and it is what I could afford. I had a roommate who was a good guy and in a similar spot. We had several issues with the place, like the garbage disposal died, terrible water pressure in the shower, and a few other things. I turned the problems in over and over. The maintenance guy ignored me, but fixed the problems of the 2 good-looking women across the hall. When I asked about my issues after 2 months, he made up a bunch of crap. He lived on site and had to handle emergencies. I worked nights and I paid extra for a garage. I was working on my car and had the radio on, and when I switched on my rolling air compressor, it threw the breaker and all of the outside lights went off. I locked up and went back to my apartment. I just happened to be looking out the window when I see the maintenance guy with his keys. He unlocks a closet at the end of the garage and flipped the breaker inside. The lights came on. I guess all of the outside lights in the front of the building are an emergency that he has to get out of bed for. I worked nights and kept those hours when I was off. I would go to the garage at random times when I was off work and turn on my compressor at night to knock the power out, and he would have to get out of bed and flip the breaker. This would be at 3 or 4 AM. My stuff never did get fixed, but I interrupted his sleep for months before I moved on. My roommate thought it was hilarious, and he would turn on the compressor sometimes too. And yeah guys, you could say that OP compressed this guy's sleep schedule. Thank you for watching, I will see you again tomorrow.